With her shovel in hand, she roams the universe, exploring every land, no map, no reverse. Oh, dig a 420, curious Canuck. Answers on your mind, never getting stuck. Riding waves of stars through the cosmic sea, finding who we are in the galaxy. She's got questions to ask and a fire that won't die, unraveling each task under the sky. Oh, dig a 420, curious Canuck. Answers on your mind, never getting stuck. Riding waves of stars through the cosmic sea, finding who we are in the galaxy. She's got questions to ask and a fire that won't die, unraveling each task under the sky. Oh, dig a 420, curious Canuck. Answers on your mind, never getting stuck.
Because,
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Or for most people, good afternoon or evening. Hello, sweet girl. It is Thursday morning. It is reading with me. We're still reading Prepare by Stephen Gosney. I labeled last week's, I retitled it as a sidetracked stream. So we don't have to, people are looking for the actual Prepare reading. They don't get confused because we didn't read a single word last week. So yeah, I relabeled that for everyone's convenience, but we'll do some reading for certain today. Hello, Brian the Science, how you doing? Hi, Diggs. I have 2 emergency samples. Why not make it 3? Am I right? Why the hell not? Why the heck not? Let's make it a really fun day. It'll make your day go by so quickly. It's not the worst idea I've ever heard. Let me just get that sorted. Perfect. And get that one set up in the right space too. I dawdled and dilly-dallied and whatnot this morning. So of course, when I went to start the stream and everything, I had to restart the computer, but something didn't work right, and I ended up having to restart it again just before it started. So I'm here. I think I've got everything open that I need. The links have been dropped, and we're good to go. So crossing fingers. Like I said, last week we didn't read anything, so I'll make certain we get some good reading done this week. Brian, try not to hurt and yourself or anyone else too much with the emergencies, but I will be reading. As soon as I fix this coffee, I will start reading. So here's your fair warning. Proceed at your own discretion. So this week we are starting part 4. It's labeled The Edge of the Abyss. So I'm not totally certain what we're going to be talking about, but stream snipe, good Lord, Johnny, that's so wrong, isn't it? Is that supposed to be something you don't do to others? I don't know. I've never been stream sniped before. Welcome, everyone. How you doing? As I was saying, we didn't read a single word last week, so we're definitely going to read this week, and we're starting pretty much as soon as I pour this coffee. Brian is saying, Crap, now it's 3. Okay, this is dangerous. Yeah, Brian, at this point, you may just want to switch over and watch Johnny's show. Mind you, you can watch them watching me. Hello, No Fucks. How you doing? Thank you, thank you. I did get your message. I will do 5 questions for Sunday, and I will try and make them easier. I will not wonder about things that I don't know as well. Okay, Brian. Bye. Good luck to you. But yeah, I will have trivia questions for Sunday. No problem. No fucks. Thank you very much. And if you guys don't know, you can go and see No Fucks Given on Rumble. He does lovely stuff. Every Wednesday he does it's called a mashup. And my gosh, I have never had anyone so able to mash songs together and make it work. It's really quite awesome. Smashes some of the weirdest songs together, and yet it works perfectly. Sorry, let's go. No fucks. Of course not, because I see it all the time. But now that I'm looking for it specifically, I need to punch it in. So we go there. Awesome possum. How do I? Is it just NFG? Okay. Well, that's easy. I can do that on my own. NFG on Rumble for Wednesday ups and more. Oops, I forgot. I need to do that too, don't I? There we go. So yeah, Wednesdays, as soon as I finish the show with Johnny, I turn on No Fucks. He does a Wednesday mashup that starts basically as Johnny's stream ends. And it's a lot of fun. It's a whole ton of fun. The Shithawk sent you. Oh, hello, Pool Scam Sam. The Shithawk sent you. Well, you'll be safe over here. But yeah, No Fucks Given or an NFG. Also on Sundays, we're on his channel, or I'm on his channel, and we just kind of hang out and chat. We did trivia questions last week, and it worked well, so we'll do some more again this week and see what happens. So feel free to come by and play along with us. It's a lot of fun. Duct Tape, DUCK, not DUCT. Duct Tape is on there with us, and he's a hoot. He's a ex-American military who spent the bulk of his adult life in Germany, and he's a lot of fun. So yeah, come join us on Sundays. It's 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so you'll have to do your own math after that. So without further ado, we're almost at the 10-minute mark. This is the time when I need to start reading, or else I'll forget and we'll end up just talking again. That's for this afternoon, not right now. So, on that note, part 4, The Edge of the Abyss. Let's go. Looking into the precipice. Has the American experiment failed? Freedom is never more than a generation away from extinction. That's a quote from Ronald Reagan. Majorities are not needed to destroy our republic. The United States of America cannot survive if the people do not believe in its founding document. That's for sure. But how many people rejecting our Constitution will lead to our downfall? The Nazi Party was able to take over Germany, perhaps the leading civilized country in the world at the time, without ever obtaining a majority in support. The 43.9% of the vote garnered in the election of 1933 resulted in the installation of Paul von Hindenburg, who, at 84 years of age, became a stooge for the resilient Nazis under Adolf Hitler. The weakness of Hindenburg allowed evil in. Can this happen in our country? Heck yeah. Could we have reached a critical mass where there is no saving the republic as it currently exists. Lord, I hope not. Hello, Master Chief. How you doing? It is hard to keep up with rapidly unfolding events. Big tech censorship and mass media inundate the marketplace of ideas with a flood of lies that serve a grand narrative. The window of action seems small. If the masses sleepwalk into slavery, freedom will be erased from the earth with a whimper. The Republican government structure could be described as the highest form of self-governance we have yet developed. However, a republic requires many factors to be successful. Republican form of government requires great effort and sacrifice to attain and maintain. When these structures are eroded or lost, we devolve into a lower form of government, such as an oligarchy or a tyranny. Legend has it that when Ben Franklin emerged from the Constitutional Convention of 1787, he was asked what sort of government he and his colleagues forged. He famously said, "A republic, madame, if you can keep it." Is the republic still viable? The question is, what form of government would the post-republican form take, or can we, employing constitutional revision, maintain the republic? If history follows a pattern, then we should be able to formulate solutions. If history follows a pattern, then can we prevent negative turns? Personally, I do not think that there are inevitable macro patterns. Rather, I think that humans have not changed since the beginning of recorded history. This is why I disagree with the inevitable march toward freedom mantra. That's a political slogan, not a law of politics. We need to be careful with our inherited freedoms, lest we lose them. That's for sure. Just as an aside, Alberta is wanting to, we're not allowed to use the word separate. Separate brings to mind Quebecers trying to separate, but they want to become independent. So Alberta wants to become independent. Saskatchewan has officially said they want to become independent too. So the two are forming an alliance. If it all follows as I hope that it follows, we would see the Yukon, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, Manitoba fall in with them. And really crossing fingers, if we could get the CCP out of Vancouver in the Lower Mainland, BC would follow suit and join them as well. The bulk of BCers are conservatives. The bulk of us understand what's going on and see the need for change. The people on the coast are run mostly by the CCP, allegedly talking out my, well, I hate having to say talking out my ass. Do your own research. If you're really interested in just how bad the CCP has become involved in the Lower Mainland, go look at some stuff that Mayor Brad West, he's the mayor of Port Coquitlam. Look at what he's been doing. He's been fighting the CCP for years, even before becoming mayor. He's done so much good work against the CCP that he and his family have been put on their hit list, on the CCP hit list. This is all true. YouTube, you can fact check me. It's all true. I am not talking out my ass. This has happened and it's recorded. So if you want to see just how bad it's gotten on the coast with the CCP involvement, go check out Mayor Brad West. He's really, really doing good work. But if we could just get them out of the coast, BC would easily join the rest of them and become a new country, an independent country. I would really like it to be called the Republic of Western Canada, and I would love if it would adopt the Constitution, the American Constitution. I think that would be the best thing we could possibly do. So yeah, who knows? It may happen. At this point, we've got two provinces who are very, very serious about becoming independent. So it may just happen. Hello, Bishop. How you doing? Raw communism, no currency, no gathering of wealth. Yeah, well, by most people. The people at the very, very top always seem to have all the wealth. It's weird how communism works, right? There we go. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents on the way Canada's going. Professor Mike Reynolds and I discussed that there might be lessons to be applied from history to our present circumstances, with the big qualifier of if such lessons can be applied, then we should be able to think our way out of the cyclic downturn. Mhm. If we are devolving away from the republic, is it predictable? If it is indeed cyclic, then perhaps nothing can be done to change evolution at this moment. It seems we're devolving away from the classical forms. The dumbing down of the American electorate, especially in the subject of history, puts us in a new world. This is a complex situation. Hello, Mint Diggity. How you doing? Digger world order. Good Lord. No, no, no. We'd all be stoned and nothing could get done. So, again, the dumbing down of the American electorate, and it's the same pretty much across Western, the Western thing. Crap. I hate when my brain does this. Western civilization. There we go. It's not specific to America. We're seeing it across all of the Western society. This complete dumbing down of the citizenry. Um, the dumber we get, the easier it is for them to tell us what to do and make sure that we do it, right? And unfortunately, they've been doing that for a good long time. Plato's Republic and then Aristotle discussed multiple forms of government, from totalitarian to democracy. They concluded that a mixed form, a prime minister and parliament, or the division of power, was the best, perhaps in competition with the enlightened despot. The enlightened despot form has a fatal flaw. It cannot be assured over time. Right, right. You never know who's going to replace the last guy. No matter how loving a tyrant is, when he's gone, who knows who's going to be next. Many, from Cicero, Locke, Hume, Montesquieu, and others, followed and enlarged, have discussed how each form would be sustained over time. The general conclusion was that there is a pattern to achieving the ideal of a mixed government. The pattern continues until a subsequent cycle destroys that form and returns the populace to despotism. The French Revolution may be a good modern example. Yeah, if you even know what happened there. A lot of kids these days don't get taught that. Have no idea. I mean, the famous adage, those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it. It's really, really easy to control the masses if you don't teach them about previous times. In America, the early founders escaped the monarchy in England, came to this continent, revolted, and formed a constitutional republic, a mixed form of government. Hi, Wild. Thank you. Now, the question is, are the cyclic philosophers correct? Does the form of government follow a pattern cycle? Are we living/witnessing the incremental demise of our previously successful mixed form and transforming to an authoritarian socialistic model, and then from there to a totalitarian form? Is America being transformed from a democratic republic to a socialistic state following the evolvement and pattern that ancient and modern political philosophers identified and discussed? Hi, AEP. If so, and I would say yes, if so, then we should know what to expect. Can we use that knowledge to intervene in the pattern? Well, we can, but will you be allowed? The problem for us is we started, like in Canada, we started as a democracy. You guys have got that republic. That's key. Hello, Squab Bob. That's key. We started as a democracy, so that's why we seem to be so much further down the communist trail than you guys. You guys started further back in a safer environment than we did. But I would say we are definitely socialist heading to communist real fast here in Canada. As an example, the prime minister, he's not my prime minister, but the prime minister Carney just put out a big, huge spending bill to shore up security at our borders. Only problem is if you look at this big, huge bill, he's done what your government loves to do, and he's put other things into it. Now, he is a globalist banker. He was a banker from the start of his career. Politics is just a very recent thing. So he's a globalist banker. He's the one that ruined the UK. He helped them with Brexit. He also is the one that ruined the Canadian banking or the Canadian banking system. So in our shoring up security of the border bill, he's also added in a bunch of stuff, which, amongst other things, will make it a requirement that if anyone wants to withdraw more than $10,000 from his or her personal bank account, the bank has the right and, in fact, the duty to ask you why you need to why you're wanting to take it out. You can deposit as much money as you want into your account, but if you want to remove more than $10,000 from your account, you are now going to be forced to tell the CRA why you want your money and what you're going to be spending your money on. It's ridiculous. And that's in the border safety bill. So yeah, he also decided that they're just not going to table a budget for this year, like just not. Yeah, I feel like no. So our parliament, which closed down in the beginning of January and didn't open up until last week. So they've been off work. They've been getting paid, but our parliament's been closed. And now he decides he's not going to table a budget. Now he's doing this big, huge spending bill, which does not have anything to do with what it's supposed to be doing. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The only good thing is Pierre Poilievre is back in Parliament. A different conservative MP gave up his seat in Parliament to Pierre Poilievre so that he can get in and start, doing his thing. Again, I want to say, in my opinion, Pierre Poilievre is just as bad as Trudeau and Carney. He works for the UN, not for the WEF. Although, honestly, I don't know who Carney works for. I mean, he works for World Bank, so I know who he works for. But I don't know, which of the world organizations like the WEF or the WHO or the UN or what have you. I don't know who he favors. But we all know he's a banker. So we know who his ultimate paymaster is. But yeah, so just as an aside, tell them you're buying a rocket, right, Peggy? Oh, that'll be fun. Oh, no worries. Don't worry. I'm just buying a rocket. What for? Oh, you don't need to know. It's going to be fun. It's in backyard. Linda, it is so good to see you. Hello. Actually, Linda, it has been 32 days today since I had a cigarette. So thank you very much, Linda. You, MJ, there's a couple of people who have really been holding my feet to the fire because I keep talking about it, but I never actually had the courage to do it. Well, I did. I had the courage and I did it, and I am no longer a smoker. So, woohoo! Thank you. WEF and the UN, they're all the same. And AP is saying that as well. What's the difference? Yeah. Well, fair enough. I think at the end of the day, they all have different factions they work for, but at the moment, they're all working towards the globalist goal, and then they'll fight each other to see who gets to control it. In my opinion, talking out my ass, do your own research, please. That being said, yes, the way things are going, I can totally see a new country of Western Canada. Thank you, Linda. And if Western Canada, the new country, does come into existence, I would love to see us start back at the Republic, like you guys did. If we could adopt your constitution, I think that would help us all quite a bit. And to be completely honest, not to toot my own horn or anything, or vicariously through BC, but Alberta and Saskatchewan, they need BC. They need us. We've got the port. We've got the only major port in western side of North America. We also have control of the highway and the waterways and the airways that take you into Alaska. You need BC, or they need BC. So it would really behoove them to help us get rid of the little CCP problem we've got on the coast. Yeah, see, Peggy, I think, in my opinion, after having done my own research and fallen down many, many, many rabbit holes, in my opinion, there's between 13 and 15 factions who have been working towards the New World Order for hundreds, if not thousands of years. These are very ancient groups, factions. They have had to work together all these hundreds or thousands of years to get to this point. Once they finally achieve an actual globalist order, where everyone on the planet is run by one person, at that point, they'll have to fight themselves to see who will be ultimately in control of that new world order. But right now, they've been forced to work together for so long, it really is hard to tell where one starts and ends sometimes. I know, eh? This was my tinfoil hat from Jeff. From Vices. He had one with a thing, and I loved it so much. I'd never seen one with a point. So I made one, and that was my Halloween costume. So I've finally managed to find a place to keep it where I can grab it. So that is my thing. All right. So if the gentle reader grants this author some leeway, let's discuss some of the darkness. All right. The attacks on the foundation of America. When a large portion of the population is hostile to the founding document, no amount of procedure or structure can prevent its ultimate failure. Correct. Those who have lost faith manipulate the truth for their own end. Therefore, no structure can survive its grab for power, and no protection is safe from manipulation. A word about ends justifying a word about ends justifying means. A win at all costs attitude posits an end point. Such an end point is often illusory. Thank you. Illusory. My mouth. It's about as bad as my brain sometimes. Time continues after any endpoint, as does truth and goodness, or falsity and evil. Arriving at an arbitrary time point destination, corrupting the present, stains the outcome. Using a law example, many people know that a prosecutorial cheating disturbs me greatly. A conviction stemming from an unfair trial is unjust. The process is critical when it comes to the law. However, through corruption, intended ends can be achieved. However, after the win, you are left with yourself. Beware that you have not won a Pyrrhic victory. The same could be said about winning an argument. Discussion and talk should be a mutual exploration of truth. Instead, talking has become a win-lose game of tribalism. Someone recently asked if I had convinced anyone of my way of thinking. My answer was that I did not see discussion as a battle for winners and losers. Hey, Bad Dazzer. But as a give and take, where we both seek to get closer to truth or at least clarify each other's perspectives. When we do not open our minds, we will miss words of wisdom as we pass before them. I love that. The discussion is great because it either allows someone else to show you where you are wrong in your own beliefs, or it helps you to strengthen your own understanding of why you believe a certain thing. Either which way, you're learning. It was fun last night, Dazzer. It was a lot of fun. I watched the hockey game in Discord. It was so much fun. And we won. We won. All right, sorry. Sidetrack. I do. Chat does squirrel me. I've been told about it, and it does. So, as many people know, my favorite current band is Ginger. Okay, I understand entirely if metal music is not your thing, but behind the powerful music are insightful and poetic lyrics. Behold their song, Words of Wisdom, from the King of Everything album, in which they describe this phenomenon we were just talking about. Word is a gift, word is a sword. Word is a gun, always ready for war. Mistakenly taken, gracefully faken, a hill of shit is played off as a stack of gold. Filtered through restrictions and distilled passive perception, my words of wisdom go in one ear and out the other. Yet untold and still unheard, a shield built against warning and alert. For consciousness never bothered, for the minds never taught to listen. My words of wisdom go in one ear and out the other. Like cattle chew your grass, of recreating advertising. Ears are deaf, not customized to what is meaningful and wise. Sleeping notion lies unconscious under absurd lullaby. It's time I wake it up with a bullet of words of wisdom in my mind. Good words, Tatiana Shmeluk. By the way, good reader, you do not have to listen to this one. Fair enough. Corruption, delusion, and the narrative. One-party dominance ends in corruption. This is not an American problem, but a fundamental problem of all free peoples. For example, in Greece, many businesses are family-owned since hiring employees invites in the state. Cheating the government is part of the system. Venezuela provides an even more stark example. The government actively supports the thugs who run the streets of Caracas. The powerful use gang violence as a tool to terrorize the productive, working, and law-abiding people. The modern tyrants are generally at war with Western civilization. AP saying, savor it, not going to win many like that. Oh, AP, I tell you what, I am really, no matter who you talk to, fans of and people who can't stand the Oilers, no matter who you talk to, everyone is saying Oilers in 5 or Oilers in 6. I think it's going to be Oilers in 6, but the point I'm making is everyone, no matter who they're cheering for, everyone says it's the Oilers here this year. And I kind of think it's true. So we'll see. But I did savor it. It was one hell of a game. Very good game. All right. So the modern tyrants are generally at war with Western civilization. This observation is not just directed to the left. Conservative or Republican domination of the government will also result in corruption. For example, the appointment of process for judges in Florida is controlled by the big donors and insiders. Meritorious candidates are excluded from submission to the governor in favor of friends and familial relations. Judge positions are considered political plums to be distributed within the insider team, rather than finding candidates who would defend our Constitution and uphold the law. I love our governor, but he is not perfect. He is just a human. There should be stricter patronage rules regarding appointments, and the process needs to be open and in the sunshine. Additionally, we need a healthy opposition to give the individual citizen a choice. But enough of that misery. As Dennis Prager points out, courage is the rarest of positive human qualities. However, wealth has created a vast middle class of Americans with too much to lose. Most middle class Americans would rather continue in comfort without fighting than pledge their lives and sacred honor for the cause of freedom. This is quite understandable, but we should recognize that soft tyranny plays a role in this human tendency to cower its opponents. A further consequence of American wealth is that we can protect ourselves from the consequences of delusional thinking. In days past, wrong-headed ideological attacks on the community would result in starvation. Now, wealth insulates falsity. This creates bubbles of reality that are at odds with the truth. Hello, MSO. Wishful thinking turns our desire to see the world as we want into our fictional movie, with ourselves as the central heroic character. Wishful thinking is a powerful force. Have you heard of Rathergate? Big-time news anchor Dan Rather obtained 6 documents containing allegations about President George W. Bush's service in the Texas Air National Guard in the Vietnam War era. The documents were allegedly typed in 1973. Dan Rather presented 4 of these documents as authentic in a 60 Minutes 2 broadcast aired by CBS on September 8, 2004, less than 2 months before the 2004 presidential election. Internet sleuths quickly revealed that the documents were created using modern word processing software. Anyone with a basic understanding of desktop publishing would know that proportional spacing of the font, the superscripted TH, for example, could not be produced on a typewriter, but is a consequence of word processing software not being available in 1973. Led by the great work at Powerline Blog, the new media revealed the facade that is legacy media. Despite being confronted with the lies, Mr. Rather dug in his heels and refused to admit the lie he had peddled. Dan Rather purported to be a journalist. What has been revealed by the internet is that these people are just puppets for a narrative. The traditional media pushes a narrative, an ideological line that supports their version of the world's story. Hello, Boldsteep. This is not to only criticize the left. On the other side, the conservatives and their media are just as subject to the counter-narrative. As an attorney practicing criminal law, I am always surprised at the absolute 180-degree opposite predictions by people on the statistics of criminal appeals. When asked about a convicted criminal's chances on appeal, many of my friends will regularly speculate 25 to 30%. They perceive, based on conservative media narratives, that criminals are regularly getting off on a technicality. This perception arises from sensational stories promoted in conservative media, usually out of big cities or Soros prosecutor areas. But in my experience, which is extensive in this area, the opposite is true. Getting off on a technicality is extremely rare in Florida. Instead, conviction on a technicality is the common case. This incongruence between my preferred media sources and direct experience led me to research the issue myself. The results are in my first book, Ideas and Answers in Law. In summary, the chances of a criminal defendant getting some positive results on appeal in my jurisdiction is 0.6%. That is, at best, a 6 in 1,000 chance. And that is only a chance at some positive result. Out of over 1,700 cases analyzed in a year, only one resulted in a reversal of their conviction and immediate release. That is one release in a year in a 13-county area of Florida. One major advantage mainstream media has over the chaos of individual sources is the lack of coherent narratives in the latter. The legacy media institutions mysteriously coordinate stories from a hidden source. This is not a mere conspiracy theory. If you need convincing, research the infamous journalist cabal. This coordination is genuine. By their very definition, independent thinkers and individualists do not have a coherent, overarching narrative provider. Topic selection is one of the main ways that legacy media influences thinking. For example, the latest Kardashian scandal is irrelevant to the problems facing this country. However, the Iranian nuclear deal has world-shaking consequences for future generations. Placing this in context with the North Korean nuclear deal would give a neophyte news consumer a better idea of the actual issues facing the world. This delusional wish fulfillment infects higher education. This is exacerbated by the fact that there is no error correction in the social sciences. Unlike the hard sciences, a bad idea cannot be definitively falsified in the social sciences. A social science bad idea often has some political appeal and can live on and on to harm society by those who adopt it for use in the practical field. This is a terrible loss to humanity. We need vigorous academics searching for truth. History can be examined to test social science theories, and their effect can be indirectly observed and tested against reality to determine if the predicted outcomes outweigh implementational costs. However, such an examination must be done objectively and independently of a self-referenced narrative. The narrative is an attempt by our limited minds to simplify an exceedingly complex world. It's understandable. As discussed earlier, we cannot comprehend the vast complexity surrounding us. We, therefore, reduce the world to symbols and stories. What we should instead seek is the truth, regardless of our predilections. It is not an accident that Percival, the humblest of all quest knights, would enter the Grail Castle and find that truth with his humility. Tyrannical trends. Political correctness and cancel culture has made speaking freely a dangerous act. If the mob can shut off the speech of prominent conservative speakers, it can shut everyone down. Every citizen should be entitled to speak online about right and wrong or comment on truth or falsity. If not, should he be allowed to talk on a cell phone? What about having access to city water? How far does the canceling of those with whom you disagree go? The underlying logic of cancel culture is that of the re-education camp. Yes, the social credit system that runs China, it's scary. And they're bringing it in here. It's coming in over here. May not look exactly like the one they use in Canada or in China, but social credit system, it's already here. The like he's saying, the cancel culture, it's here. Or it's coming anyways. There is a certain base appeal of communism. There is no central leader, no guiding ideology. Instead, it is defined as a collection of humans who have lost faith in God and returned to a more primitive state. Maoism tapped into youth within universities to target perceived enemies of the party, using shame as a weapon and historical destruction as their calling card. To the left, every year is year zero, where man can be built anew and perfected by the state. In the French Revolution, the left reset the clock to year zero. The Republican form of government requires an educated body politic. As noted earlier, education has been systematically attacked and infused with politics, resulting in a dumbing down of the electorate. Diminishing actual education is a tactic for transforming governments. It should be added that in the information age, the field has been flooded with so many problems that it may have overwhelmed the ability of good people to deal with all the attacks being waged on them. Understanding the totalitarian instinct that is the enemy of individuality and freedom. Defining the modern enemy of freedom is vital in understanding how to counter it. One of those enemies is utopianism. The utopian idea is that perfection can be achieved on earth if everyone conforms. This leads to tyranny. The central human flaws of jealousy, hatred, and lust for power also drive tyranny. Christianity places checks on these human weaknesses. Without God, a human devolves into a self-interested slave to their innate human vices. Many urban dwellers live through a prism of artificial reality created by the media. They wake up in a cubicle surrounded by strangers and ride in a driverless tube to another cubicle where they stay isolated with their only relationships directed through a screen. There are no red and blue states. The most accurate maps of voting are county maps, not state maps. And the county maps show that the major partisan division in every region of the US is between urban cores and everywhere else. Different groups are playing on this urban-rural divide to achieve power. Oh no, his stream died? Oh, for 5/6. Ah, crap. Well, he's only 50 minutes in. Oh, crap. Here's hoping he can get it back. So another great divide is religious versus secular. Those who misplace their faith are making a fundamental error. Back up. Good. Okay. Those who misplace their faith are making a fundamental error whose consequence is profound. We spoke earlier about idolatry. Humans place value judgments in everything they do. The peak of that value system is that which is worshipped. What is at the peak of your value system, if not God? Current ideologies attacking Western civilization present themselves as a new force and new idea. However, similarities with prior attempts at utopianism abound, and historical comparisons can clarify the phenomenon. The French Revolution, communism, fascism, and Maoism, all attempts to improve on the concept that all men are created equal, are in fact regressions from that ideal. Calvin Coolidge said it better than me. If all men are created equal, that is final. If they are endowed with inalienable rights, that is final. If governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, that is final. No advance, no progress can be made beyond these propositions. If anyone wishes to deny their truth or their soundness, the only direction in which he can proceed historically is not forward but backward toward the time when there was no equality, no rights of the individual, no rule of the people. Those who wish to proceed in that direction cannot lay claim to progress. They are reactionary. Their ideas are not more modern, but more ancient than those of the revolutionary fathers. The leftist takeover of large institutions. A major failure of conservatives has been the failure to counter let's try that one again. A major failure of conservatives has been the failure to counter the successful leftist tactics consistently applied to take over large institutions. These tactics have resulted in every large institution ultimately falling to a leftist takeover and becoming ideologically uniform. As observed earlier, this will necessarily result in corruption. The phenomenon of leftist takeover was observed by Robert Conquest's second law of politics. Any organization not explicitly right-wing sooner or later becomes left-wing. And why is this so? Large organizations rely on selection committees, an influential group to which leftists are naturally attracted. When applying a simple game theory, it is easy to see why this occurs with such frequency. Assume good-hearted employees generally believe in meritocracy. The best person for the job should be selected. Thus, assume that typically, folks play by the rules and choose the best candidate for a position based on merits. The leftists on hiring committee apply a strict ideological test and systematically exclude conservatives from consideration whenever possible. When employed in the organization, the ideologues systematically target conservatives and nonconformists, making them either lie for the institution or make them so unwelcome and uncomfortable that they resign. Playing this out over time ultimately results in ideological conformity, leaving only the leftist tyrants in charge. The conservatives have no coherent response to this. This has led to conservative exclusion from much media, academia, government, and big business. Another significant factor is the cowardice of elites trying to demonstrate their social virtue. Under game theory, this inevitably results in a conservative rout over time. Until a universal solution to these tactics is formulated, the large organization will be the enemy of free thinkers. The conservative movement should seek to displace large with individually based solutions wherever possible. This means disfavoring public schools, big universities, big tech, big business, and large central governments. How about big bank? We should disfavor the big bank as well. Favored should be small businesses, local government, and private schooling. De-evolution from the large bureaucracies to local control and individual people should always be favored. At the government level, federalism should be rediscovered. Orwell meets Machiavelli. The current state of our society contains both rewards and punishments, driving us toward modern totalitarianism. The government has many tools to coerce behavior out of individuals. The government can take direct action through punishments. Do not empower the government by getting involved in any kind of criminality. One time, Judge Richard O. Watson was on the bench presiding over criminal trials. At a misdemeanor theft sentencing, a young prosecutor asked for an anti-theft class. Judge Watson looked at the defendant and asked, Do you know that stealing is wrong? The guy said, Yes, sir. Judge Watson turned back to the prosecutor and said, There's your anti-theft class. Oh, and if the police are questioning you, shut up and ask for your lawyer. Those warnings mean something. We've all seen what happens when you don't shut up and ask for your lawyer. One mass delusion that pervades conservative thought today is that criminals are getting out on a technicality. This is so far from the truth in my jurisdiction as to be laughable. The government and conservative media leverage this narrative to reduce the rights of citizens and increase the power of the police. Recognize that an all-powerful police state is a threat to all of our freedom. Aside from the direct action of criminal prosecution, the government can use the legal system for civil prosecution. For example, the IRS can investigate you and you have no recourse but to comply and hope you have your accounting ducks in a row. If you work in a blue-collar job, the EPA could investigate you. Think about all the agencies that could reach your life and make it miserable. Is this not an argument for small, limited government? Heck yeah. There are also indirect means of prosecution or persecution. Protesters could show up at your house. You could suffer a personal boycott. There is social and professional shunning put together by your social groups. Injustices committed against a disfavored target can be ignored by the monolithic media. The government itself can withdraw governmental protection from the disfavored group. Am I being unrealistic? Ask 10 random persons whether they think a racist has the right of individual self-defense. Our modern tyrants also have a reward system set up. These can be direct. For example, look up the political payoffs underlying Solyndra, Global Crossings, innumerable union deals, the Mark Rich pardon, etc. But the rewards can also be indirect. Professorships, media gigs, book deals, movie roles, TV roles, governmental hiring and promotion, quick regulatory approvals, music industry promotion, etc. If the insider strays from the reservation, they get the Juan Williams or Michael Flynn treatment. The surveillance state aids in modern tyranny by identifying enemies of the dominant group for targeting. Private tech companies conglomerate information to identify weaknesses in the targeted individuals. Feeding that information to an ideologically captured authority can effectively exploit that weakness and persecute the individual. Let's look at another visualization to better understand the many angles of tyranny directed at individual freedom. The arrows represent the coercive forces from outside, aimed at the individual at every level of our pyramid. Traditional tyrants attack the individual's health, safety, and freedom. Soft tyrannies threaten levels higher up, but the intent is the same. These arrows are fired from groups into the chest of our personal freedom. I didn't realize I'd have a picture I'd need to show. Oh, come on now. Thank you. No, we're part 4. That's probably in that bed that keeps getting away from me. Yes, the edge of the abyss. Okay. Ha, there it is. Goodness gracious. All right. There we go. So that's the picture he's showing us. Can I hold it? I can hold it. All right. So the arrows represent the coercive forces from outside aimed at the individual at every level of our pyramid. Traditional tyrants attack an individual's health, safety, and freedom. Soft tyrannies threaten levels higher up, but the intent is the same. These arrows are fired from groups into the chest of our personal freedom. Secularism results in tyranny. Communism was an explicitly atheistic ideology. Theoretically altruistic, communism derives much of its appeal and power from emotional jealousy. When visiting Russia in 1992, the mentality of communism still ruled the populace. Our tour guide had to be dropped off far away from her home. She explained that if her neighbors knew she was earning extra money, they would physically attack her. Who do you think you are? I am constantly amazed at how jealous people can be. Writing a book or an article, people respond with, "Who does Gosney think he is?" When I earned my master's degree, my board certification, or even when I would just smile, people responded with contempt and by pointing out flaws, of which there are many. But significantly, very few responded with praise or delight. Be aware of this tendency when trying to improve yourself. Do not cower to the mob by reducing your potential. Look to your true friends and ignore the mob. Also, try to curtail this tendency in yourself. That's a big thing. Work to lift others with genuine praise. Support those who wish to improve themselves. Jealousy is underappreciated as a force in ourselves and our society today. Nazism and also anti-Christian, with senior Nazi leaders renouncing their Christianity, with only a few notable exceptions. Christianity had declined severely in Germany as the Nazis came to power. Before the ascent of the Third Reich, Germany largely abandoned Christianity and increasingly embraced hedonism, Marxism, and paganism. Thus, it could be argued that the decline of Christianity in Germany led directly to the rise of Nazism. Many people know the concept of separation of church and state. This is not in the Constitution. The Constitution prevents the state from adopting a state religion. The Constitution also provides for freedom of religion for the people. But if religion is contained within a church pew on Sunday, state power grows and fills every other space in society with its idolatrous substitute. Referring to the earlier chapter on the problem of rights, limiting the individual to a bundle of rights expands everything outside the individual. Putting God in a box generates tyranny. When I say I am a Christian, that does not mean occasionally. Remember Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30? We as individuals practice our faith. Government is ancillary. Individual faith is not contained within a church, but the hearts of man. Man is fundamentally flawed. Without faith, mankind's base desires are unchecked. Humans have within us hatred, jealousy, and lust for power. This makes the religious divide more understandable. Christian faith allows forgiveness and selflessness as an antidote to hatred and jealousy, and provides meaning to a meaningless existence. From the movie Excalibur, Merlin. But a king should be afraid, Arthur, always, of the enemy, waiting everywhere, in the corridors of his castle, on the deer paths of his forests, or in a more tangled forest in here. Gaming out future dark possibilities. Identifying present threats to individual freedom. Arthur, where hides evil in my kingdom then? And Merlin, always where you never expect it. Always. Famine, flood, hurricane, earthquake, tornado, volcano, asteroid strike, peak oil, civil disorder, global warming, the coming ice age. Did I cover all the traditional survivalist fears? You missed zombie. You missed zombie, but that's okay. I'll allow it. External catastrophe eternally threatens humanity. But let's add to this the self-created disasters. Totalitarians have been at war with the United States as founded for many years, or perhaps it can be argued its entire history. Today, many potential triggers of societal disruption could threaten individual freedom. Looking into the future is very difficult, but what are the possible dangers ahead? Personally, I think the most likely trigger for major societal disruption or civil war is an economic crisis. With all the stresses our government places on our financial system, it is not unreasonable to envision a scenario where money loses all value. The deficit is enormous and the debt keeps growing. At some point, this trajectory becomes unsustainable, and the result will probably be a run of hyperinflation. The book, When Money Dies, is essential reading for the dynamics that will take place if such an event occurs. Alternatively, the group's totalitarian desire to control the population may reach a tipping point. For example, an attempt to register, outlaw, or seize firearms from the people may result in a triggering event. Already, the government has been weaponized against those who wish to limit its power. IRS Director Lois Lerner never suffered any consequence from the IRS targeting political groups that simply sought to lower the size of government. As I write this in 2023, we have yet to understand the depths to which the FBI infiltrated the levers of social media and big tech information companies. Government employees who blatantly lied to elected representatives were defended and celebrated simply because the tribe under attack was on the other side. The political strategy of dividing the people may result in open warfare between those that are divided. For example, the Weather Underground, a radical communist group, proposed to destroy individual freedom in favor of radical Marxism in its 1974 book, Prairie Fire: The Politics of Revolutionary Anti-Imperialism. Also known as the Prairie Fire Manifesto, this document recommended that Marxism be transmuted from the traditional proletariat bourgeois This document recommended that Marxism be transmuted from the traditional proletariat bourgeoisie duality into an oppressor-oppressed class divide. Applied to America, this communist strategy plays on divisions of race and sex to bring down the republic. Fraudulent racial incidents hyped by the sensationalist media fuel radicalization. People can also self-radicalize on the internet. The resultant ethnic rifts could result in open warfare. Looking back, people might think this means a black-white divide. However, it could just as quickly be any divide that balkanizes many different groups into tribal warfare. Our toxic politics even attempts to divide men from women. Sex and gender warfare demonize sex itself. Women label men with toxic masculinity, while men retreat from the stage as they are red-pilled and go on strike from relationships. Dr. Helen Smith wrote about this in 2014 in her book, Men on Strike: Why Men Are Boycotting Marriage, Fatherhood, and the American Dream, and why it matters. But the warnings remain unheeded. Meanwhile, our youth suffer, with women left without good husbands and men without good wives. The loss of truth within our informational institutions is a grave threat to freedom. Our society is drowning in lies. Censorship by big tech is common against conservative voices. But those on the other side should not believe that the genie, once unleashed, will not turn on them either. Conformity with the mob will not be protected if individual thinking is abandoned. The criminal justice system is at a breaking point. We are at the limits of incarceration. A historical solution used by tyrants is to decriminalize crime and use the criminal class as a shock troops against the law abiding. Blocking public streets with mobs and violently attacking drivers who try to pass, painting graffiti on businesses, taking over property, smashing windows, and looting are all basic tactics of violent ideologies. The mob even threatens perceived enemies in their own homes with seeming impunity. Is our country on the precipice of citizen on citizen violence? A triggering event such as the assassination of key opposition leaders could result in civil war. This almost came to pass when Socialist Democrat supporter James Hodgkinson attempted to kill the leadership of the Republican Party at a softball field outside of D.C. Hodgkinson was not a radical per se, but a mainstream supporter of Bernie Sanders and a volunteer for his campaign. Had he been successful, the consequences could have been profound. In this 2024 update, we should add the July 13th, 2024 assassination attempt on Republican candidate Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, and the second attempted assassination in Florida on September 15th, 2024. Both wannabe assassins were left-wingers who espoused the toxic ideology of the radical left that you could read any day in the local Miami newspaper. Corruption of the electoral process leads to vast distrust in the representative government. Restated, the consent of the governed cannot be relied on as a basis for government if the election is not reliable and verifiable. Think North Korea. We should all support fair elections. Reliance on public transport alone allows the government to dictate who can travel where. The personal automobile represents freedom of travel. Now, I am not against technological developments. I look forward to being able to order up my own personal transport pod to whisk me wherever while I rest. It is the dependence on government and the threat that personal travel can be curtailed that we should guard against. Individual transportation is essential to individual freedom. And they're even, this is me again, individual transportation has even been affected now with the computers running them. They can be hacked into, they can be shut off with the click of a button anytime anyone wants. And you know, for now, it's just the OnStar or whatever, you know, the online security aspect of the car, but who's to say it's not going to be the government next? You know, or just some bad guy hacking the car for, you know, so he can steal it from you, or, you know, kids playing, not realizing that they're actually hacking a vehicle. You know, like there are all these ways in which they've made certain that individual transportation can be controlled as well. So it goes on. A cashless society threatens individual freedom. If cash is not allowed, the government can cut off one's ability to trade with others. Exactly. Social credit scores are an existential threat to individual freedom. Foreign action cannot be discounted in the future. American division and instability encourages bad foreign actors worldwide. And further, the lack of American leadership destabilizes the global order, and the opportunities for miscalculation significantly increase. While a direct attack on the U.S. by another rival power is possible, it is more likely that an aggressive enemy will attack expecting no U.S. response, and the U.S. will intervene to their surprise. How the effects of this would cascade through the world based on miscalculation of will is limited only by the morbidity of your imagination. If the U.S. mainland is attacked in the future, it would probably be a terroristic attack. Whether the weapon is conventional, EMP, nuclear, or some other form, the U.S. response is hard to predict, making it more dangerous. For example, an illegitimate and embattled president could very well heighten a military response to distract the public from domestic corruption. This might lead to widespread protests and a unification of the anti war left and the conservative right that distrusts the action. Individual freedom could be destroyed through foreign wars. Perhaps a weakened US would join China and Russia as a tripolar world in which small countries get bullied and pushed around. What about an aggressive China pushing its way onto its neighbors? Or an emboldened Russia seizing the Baltic states and ending NATO? Or perhaps misjudging the situation and mistakenly engaging NATO? Or perhaps Iran sending a few nukes to carry out their threat against a now isolated Israel? Or maybe a fearful Israel sparking a wider war by preemptively striking the Iranian nuclear program. Perhaps the China-India dispute spirals out of control. Historically, the period leading up to the Great War, or World War I, is instructive. The world stumbled into that war. Could we stumble into another? Given human fallibility, it is possible. I love the end scene in the 1984 The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. I love that movie. Love that movie. In that end scene, when the world is saved and Buckaroo casually walks through the command truck, there's a soldier sitting at his mission control communications link, and he says, "Buckaroo, the White House wants to know, is everything okay with the alien spacecraft from Planet 10? Or should we just go ahead and destroy Russia?" Buckaroo responds, "Tell him yes on one and no on two." And Buckaroo leaves the room. Confused, the guy asks, "Which one was yes? Go ahead and destroy Russia, or number two?" Perfect. Hello, Lexi. How you doing? We are glad you eventually show up. Note that the trigger also does not need to be a foreign terroristic attack. For example, a widespread natural disaster could have a similar effect. For example, a large earthquake affecting California, resulting in long-term power outages, would most likely result in widespread looting and rioting. Assuming the authorities respond slowly or not at all, likely given the history in California, widespread reprisals and vigilantism could spiral out of control. This could lead to martial law and loss of freedom. The inertia of wealth, power, and freedom can propel a country forward for quite a while before serious effects are felt by a large swath of America. Stumbled into three cousins having a hissy fit that killed millions of people. Right? Venezuela may seem like a long way off, but it was only a decade or so ago that it was the wealthiest country in South America. Okay, stop, Gosney. The negativity is too much. How about some positivity? Your wish is my desire. From Excalibur. Merlin, what are you afraid of? Arthur, I don't know. Merlin, shall I tell you what's out there? Arthur, yes, please. Merlin, the dragon, a beast of such power that if you were to see it whole and all complete in a single glance, it would burn you to cinders. Now, Arthur, where is it? Merlin, it is everywhere. It is everything. Its scales glisten in the bark of trees, its roar is heard in the wind, and its forked tongue strikes like lightning striking near their feet. Whoa, like lightning? Yes, that's it. Arthur, how can I? What should I? Must I? Merlin, do nothing. Be still and sleep. Rest in the arms of the dragon. Dream. Part 5. The Golden Path. The many ways forward. What can we do together to ensure our individual freedom? As laid out in the previous chapters, America faces a great dilemma. If the individual people respond in kind to attacks or fight back, the result could be civil war. If the free individuals do not fight back, the result will be a slow or perhaps faster decline. Is there another way? Reagan described America as a shining city on a hill. The light shining from the beacon of that shining city is the idea of the United States of America. Immigrants worldwide have gazed at the light and seen the hope of liberty triumphant on the land of the free. It attracts freedom-loving people who see their hopes, their dreams, and their liberty in a faraway and foreign land. But the idea also flickers within their breast, an idea that makes them an American, even if they do not reside within its shores. The Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution express the foundations of the American Republic. These ideas were grounded in hard-won lessons of history. Our founding fathers were well read in that history and the problems of Western civilization. Comparing the classical liberal idea against everything else in history, the classical idea remains the only hope for mankind. This knowledge has been lost or cast away in recent years. Our golden path should be rediscovered if we are to move away from the dark age. When confronted with the abyss, the endless attacks on individual freedom, hardworking and industrious Americans look around for an escape. Make our last stand in the American redoubt, comes the call. If things turn for the worst, there may be individual solutions. In the Benedict option, Rod Dreher encourages like-minded conservatives to move to self-sustaining farm acreage in a rural community. The rural location should avoid the golden horde of urban refugees. Such a location would allow you to be self-sufficient when money dies. A book such as Strategic Relocation, North American Guide to Safe Places by Joel Skousen could help you find a place where you can hide and protect yourself, your family, and your community from the coming storm. But there's nowhere left to run. America is the last best hope of the world. There is no retreat from America. But Gosney, you ask, I thought this book was about individual freedom and liberty. Now you want us to get all wrapped up in political stuff? Which one is it? Okay. But here's the thing. Our government can kill us all. Politics is not a game or a soap opera. It's a deadly serious business. As I write, the government of Russia is sending hundreds of thousands of young Russians into the meat grinder of the Ukrainian war. I would humbly comment that for these kids, their opportunity for individual freedom is not. Thus, to protect our individual freedom, we also need to re-agree on the foundational principles that brought it to us. These principles are obvious. If we follow them, our way ahead will be golden. The rule of law, political stability, meritocracy, market economy, competent and effective civil service, protection of private property, limits on the scope of government, federalism, and strong family structures are all public ideals that we should strive for in our politics. Remember, freedom is grounded in individuals, not groups. As intellectual Jordan Peterson observed, the basic tenets of intersectionality break down once only a few factors are considered. The only workable solution is to focus on the individual. Free people can participate in the political process and have a say in the decisions that affect their lives. This may involve having secure voting, the ability to run for office, and the freedom to engage in political speech and expression. We have been discussing these concepts throughout the book, so there's no need to go further. The government must be limited. As the government grows, it eats It eats discretionary income. This results in less ability of the individual to address the challenges that confront them locally. At some point, expansive government taxation will result in a de facto monopoly on charity. At the extreme end, in communism, the government confiscates all earned income and the state directs all expenditures. In such a case, there is no room for charity or individual action since everything has been consumed and the state takes all responsibility. But there are gradations before the point of complete confiscation. When the middle class is taxed to a certain point, charity will be starved out. At this point of less than absolute taxation, a family has no money left over for anything other than basic needs. Thus, the government's taxation levels grow, resulting in the incremental annihilation of charity. There is also a moral abdication implicit in this. Why should someone support a food bank when a potential charitable contributor can just answer, "Isn't there a food stamp program?" This crowding out concept could also apply to private education. When everything is being taken from you, there may be no resources left to provide the education your child needs. We as parents should not surrender our child's education to the maw of government confiscation. The founding fathers were broadly educated in classical philosophy and history. They wisely established the checks and balances of the Constitution because they understood that if man is a flawed creature tainted by original sin, thus power, which appeals to tyrants, must be systematically checked. That goes equally for government, corporations, or any central concentration of group power. Re-educate yourself on the founding ideas. The endurance of individual freedom depends on an ethical and moral citizenry grounded in Western civilization traditions. If the attacks on the Republic have succeeded, then the institutions the conservatives wish to preserve have been corrupted and even weaponized against the freedom of people. In such a case, that which conservatives seek to preserve has been destroyed. In such a case, they are conserving evil. Creative destruction is needed to cleanse the system. Thus, the Republic also requires a healthy and vigorous set of creative people, people who are high in openness. These are the artists, the musicians, the creators, the rethinkers, the dreamers. Without openness, the conscientious types on the conservative side fall into stagnation, monotony, and boredom. Creative destruction is necessary for growth and freedom. But destruction without purpose is evil, just as conservatives defending corrupt institutions is wrong. If you are high in openness, direct that energy to creation. Good-hearted liberals and progressives must rethink no enemies on the left. Leaving out the debate as to whether fascism was a flavor of leftist or rightist thought, clearly, just as people can move too far to the right, a person can move too far to the left. Communist Russia, China, and Cambodia all historically attest to this obvious fact. The question is, where does the person who leans left draw the lines against the radicals in their midst? As Stephen Hayward notes, modern liberalism has no limit in principle to its aspirations to extend political solutions for all social problems. If you are progressive, ask yourself where that limit is. It is not enough to rail against the other side. Tribalism takes over too easily. Traditionally, the intellectual class are the first ones against the wall when the radicals seize power. Even if by some miracle a good-hearted man were to ascend to a command position, that person would soon be pushed aside by the most ruthless, who would seize upon the centralized power to enslave his fellow man. We need to bring out the best in each other. We need each other. Historians have labeled different epochs using catchphrases such as the age of reason or the age of faith. Similarly, art circles can be identified as romanticism, as a response to realism. But what of our present age? Perhaps we should strive to define our own age by working to apply the wisdom and information we have gained to accomplish something better. I would suggest that we pursue an age of balance, wherein we appreciate each other for our own individual uniqueness. Another outstanding sculpture from artist Harry Messersmith is entitled Pinnacle. Go look up a picture of this sculpture on the internet. What at first seems to us as a random confluence of geometric objects comes together as a whole in a unique completion. Obviously, consciousness is at work here. Notice that the human form is obscured. The ego of the human creator has been utterly subservient to the higher creator. The transcendent person puts himself together in a precise way, resulting in something balanced and beautiful. We, as a free people, need to take the offensive in the war for freedom. We need to reform, weaken, or control the institutions that are actively seeking to enslave us. This includes the government educational establishment, the media establishment, the entitlement state, the corporate interests. We should drastically shorten the protections afforded under copyright and patent law. We should implement school vouchers so that educational money is controlled by the parents rather than the group. At a minimum, voting must be exercised in person by written secret ballot and subject to audit. We should clarify that rights for government or corporations are not God-given but man-created. Strong antitrust measures should be used when big businesses threaten individual freedom. Too big to fail is too big. Big government needs to be much more limited and brought under control. Ultimately, the end comes from us all. The question is what kind of world we wish to live in. One of freedom or one of slavery? I propose that you endeavor to live your life in freedom. Be free where you are. If darkness comes, be prepared. But in the meantime, face the world with humility, gratefulness, and truth. In John Boorman's classic retelling of the King Arthur myth, Excalibur, the king rises to fight one last time, but is slain in his battle with his evil progeny. Before he dies, Arthur asks his ever-faithful knight, Percival, to cast the sword into a calm lake. Percival at first cannot bear to cast away the ideals of Camelot, but Arthur knows that by unleashing the sword on evil, the rule of law that it represents has been abandoned. Percival is commanded a second time to cast away the sword. In hopeful words, Arthur says, "One day a king will come and the sword will rise again." This telling bears the great lesson for us. The protectors of individual freedom are faced with a dilemma as old as Arthur. If they fail to fight for the ideals of the country, they will fall into a dark age ruled by evil. But to fight that evil, the knight destroys the very good he hopes to preserve. If we have not kept the faith, the sword will be thrown back, and a period of darkness will descend on us all. But if we each do our inner work, if we each follow our golden path with humility and gratitude, we can retain the sword and the land will thrive. The defenders of individual freedom in America must huddle together to maintain the spark of liberty for future generations or to resurrect it when time comes. A philosophical framework for individual freedom. Finding your golden path forward. Arthur, what does it mean to be king? Merlin, you will be the land and the land will be you. If you fail, the land will perish. As you thrive, the land will blossom. As this book is laid out, an individual is much more than just a bundle of rights. We are each our own pyramid of needs, traveling forward across a short timeline of life. The key to salvation rests within each one of us individually. Maximize your opportunity when you are above the line on the curve. We should each be seeking to be fully actualized to reach the top of the pyramid. Visualize yourself in the timeline of life. Where are you on the curve? Are you above the line? If you're a college student, you're just breaking away from your parents, but still have some dependence on them financially. You are just crossing into adulthood. Do not fret. You will have a lifetime of individual freedom just ahead of you. Do you have complete control of your actions? Perhaps you're enslaved by the burden of an absent father. Perhaps you need to think, oops. Perhaps you need to think deeply about how this has impacted your life. Accept that you cannot run the timeline backwards. Eliminate that excuse for taking positive action and act. Have you disciplined yourself so that you can control your emotions and desires? Are you in control of your own destiny? If not, what can be done to change it? Are you being honest with yourself and with others? What are your needs at the stage of life that you are in? Are you as healthy as you can be? Are you stable financially? Is your home functional and beautiful? Do you know your faith? Have you strengthened your relationships with your family? Do you have a strong network of friends? Are you spending your time wisely? Are you part of a community? Are you feeding yourself and others with knowledge? What are you doing with your precious time above the line? Your personal journey is yours and yours alone. AP is saying, unless you're saddled with a medical affliction that has no cure. Well, fair. You're afflicted with a medical affliction that has no cure. But what can you do? Like that's a given, that's an understanding, and that's a constant. But understanding and knowing that that is there and it'll always be there. What can you do? You can still be free, even within your ailing body. It's you still have a certain level of control. Great quotes on law, faith, and life. And contemplation of useful thoughts. In my career, I have developed several habits. One of those habits that I find of great worth is collecting snippets of wisdom. Over the years, I have accumulated quite a collection. I use them to pepper my appellate briefs and sometimes just as a refresher for thinking. All good points he makes. However, to the point that I can be prepared for the risks of the world is very limited. True. True, but we can only do what we can do. And the rest we have to give up to our creator or higher power or God or whatever you choose to call them or it or him. At a certain point, we have to realize this is my situation. So now I can only do the best that I can do within my situation. Focusing on all the stuff I can't do just brings me further down. Whereas accepting it and acknowledging it and then moving on despite it works better, at least for me mentally. Finally acknowledging and accepting the fact that this is my physical state of being. These illnesses are here. They're not going to get better. They will get worse. Acknowledging that and accepting that is huge. That's a huge, huge thing that you have to do. Once you've done that, you can then decide, now am I going to enjoy my life despite this, or am I going to rail against it and drown in the misery of the knowledge that I am, I am hurt, or I'm ill, or I am damaged, or I am whatever, and nothing's ever going to be good again. It's a mindset thing. And I can't tell you how I managed to get to that point where I was able to flick that switch, but it really has made my life a lot better after I finally acknowledged and accepted that I am sick, and I will always be sick, and it will always only get worse from here out. It's like AI. My illness will only get stronger every day, no matter what I do. Okay. AP is saying, if you believe, yes, but I don't accept any of this shit. Never will, but I'm working to fix it. Both enjoy and be pissed about it. Yes, I mean, yeah. I'm not saying that I've just forgotten about it, and I mean, I'm still pissed about it. I'm still there, there are times I rail against it, and why me, and why can't I do these things that everyone else does so easily? Why can't I do it too? But at the end of the day, trying to figure out how I can go on despite it has worked a lot better than focusing on it itself. Oh, I hope you guys got to enjoy that too. I totally missed my bottom lip. Excuse me just a second. Oh, thankfully it's cold coffee now and not hot coffee. There we go. Brand new lip, yes. Lexi saying autism is like that, but I've had more practice. There you go. So there are many quotation compendiums, but this one is more personal. I find these quotes to be exceptionally inspirational. There's no order to the quotes. Instead, I tried to organize them into subject areas: law and tyranny, politics, faith, ethics, life and love, reason, economics, conflict, and truth. I then put the quotes in an order in which they meaningfully flow. It's interesting, as I was working on the citations, how these quotes spread throughout history and how they hold together coherently. This is a testament to their truth, methinks. Many of my favorite thinkers are here: Thomas Sowell, Winston Churchill, Jordan Peterson, Edmund Burke, Ayn Rand, Justice Robert H. Jackson, and Richard Weaver, to name a few. I tried to get the citations and sourcing accurately, as is my wont in appeals. That way, you can investigate the context for yourself or cite them in a brief. This chapter came from my break between working as an assistant public defender in Daytona Beach and an assistant state attorney in Miami. As G.K. Chesterton stated, an adventure is only an inconvenience rightly considered. An inconvenience is only an adventure wrongly considered. My mind continually races with ideas, and I need a distraction from the changes. I dusted off that quotes document and found that I had quite a few, and that they are worthy of an addition to this tome. If you are a fan, perhaps you will find some wisdom here. May I also suggest that you start your own collection. Wisdom written down may aid us when we are in turmoil. When you read this, take it slow. Read each quote and stop. Think about what is being said and reflect on the deeper meanings. Apply the thought to how you perceive the world around you. This is not fast food. Savor each taste. AP says, technically there is a cure, but you need tens of millions of dollars. Shit, nearly all diseases can be cured if you have the money, right? Isn't it lovely? I don't know. We've got 15 minutes. But as Steve is saying, he wants us to kind of read them and work through each one. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut it here today. And that way we can start fresh right at the beginning next week. And we can do maybe more of a discussion as we go through each quote. We can discuss it a little bit. But yeah, there's no point in hopping into it right now because we're not even going to get through the first one. Yeah, it just wouldn't be doing it justice. Looks like trash, eh? Okay, good to know. So yeah, I'm gonna call it here. We're close enough to the 2-hour mark. I will be going over and joining Johnny at Just Kidding LLC on a Rumble, YouTube, or Twitch, whatever you prefer. And then again, I will be back in 3 hours, 3 hours and 12 minutes, roughly, with the chatting with chat. So yeah, I will see you guys in 3 hours where I can talk to you guys and you pick the topics. You decide what it is we chat about. And yeah, until then, I will see you soon. Bye.
Topics change from day to day. Science, art, or history's play. No path too twisted, no trail too thin. She dives right in where to begin. Nothing's too obscure. She'll dig and dig a spirit so pure. From ancient lore to future dreams, every question finds its gleam. Wherever she goes, answers will follow. Into the depths or up high in the hollow. Curiosity calls. She's ready to find solutions to everything on her mind.